Did you skip your morning coffee for a blood test today? Perhaps you avoided water too, believing you were following the rules. Well, as a brain specialist, I need to share a truth that is often overlooked. For anyone over the age of 60, one or two seemingly small missteps before a blood test can quietly elevate your blood pressure, thicken your blood, and in the most severe cases, even trigger a stroke. I know what you're thinking. Blood tests are supposed to be safe. Routine. No big deal. But here is the reality most doctors don't say out loud. For older adults, whose blood vessels are more delicate and whose nervous systems are less responsive, a simple oversight before a blood draw isn't just an inconvenience, it can be a danger. And what's truly concerning? Most people over 60 unknowingly make at least 3 of the 10 critical mistakes I'm about to share, not just once, but every single time they go for a test. That's why you need to hear this. The risk isn't in the needle, it's in the preparation. Stay with me, and I'll show you how to protect your brain, your heart, and your life. Starting with your very next appointment. If you've ever felt dizzy, tired, or just a bit off after having your blood drawn, type a 1 in the comments. If not, type a 0. And be sure to subscribe to Health 365 for more life-saving insights. Now, let's begin with the one mistake that sounds harmless, but can silently lead to trouble. Skipping that simple glass of water. Many people hear fasting and assume it means no food or drink. So they skip not just breakfast, but water as well. This is a significant problem, especially after the age of 60. When you are even slightly dehydrated, your blood becomes thicker, more viscous. It flows sluggishly, forcing your heart to work harder to pump it through your body. That alone can cause your blood pressure to spike right before the test. But the greater danger? Thicker blood struggles to deliver vital oxygen to your brain. This is when people feel lightheaded, dizzy, or worse, experience a mini-stroke known as a TIA, or transient ischemic attack. It can happen without warning, particularly when age has made your blood vessels more sensitive. A 2022 study in the Journal of Vascular Health revealed that seniors who fasted without proper hydration were nearly twice as likely to experience abnormal blood pressure swings during routine morning exams. And those fainting spells some people have after a blood draw? It's often not the needle. It's the dehydration. So here is a simple habit for your safety. About 1 to 2 hours before your blood test, drink an 8-ounce glass of plain water. Not too much, not too little, just enough to help your blood flow smoothly, protect your brain, and ensure your results are accurate. And speaking of what you put into your body, let's talk about something salty you might have eaten last night, without ever realizing the risk. Think back to your dinner. Was it a comforting bowl of canned soup? A quick meal of instant noodles? You might have thought, it's just one meal. The test is tomorrow. What's the harm? But here is what happens inside your body. A high-sodium meal, especially late in the evening, can elevate your blood pressure while you sleep. Since blood pressure naturally rises in the early morning, that salty dinner acts as a double blow, sending your pressure soaring just as you're heading to the clinic. Consider this. As we age, our arteries lose their youthful elasticity. They stiffen. They no longer expand and contract as they did in our 30s. So when your blood pressure spikes, the pressure has nowhere to go. It places direct strain on the fragile, tiny blood vessels deep inside your brain. The American Journal of Hypertension published a study showing that for older adults, late-night salty meals increased the risk of an early morning stroke by nearly 35%. And that's before the needle even touches your skin. Worse, if you're already dehydrated from fasting, that salt pulls even more water from your cells, further thickening your blood and disrupting your electrolyte balance. The solution is simple. The night before your test, be mindful of salt. Avoid packaged or processed foods. No salty chips, soy sauce, or deli meats. Opt for a home-cooked meal with minimal seasoning. Your brain and your heart will thank you. Now, while we're on the subject of preparation, there's another mistake that's just as risky, especially if you take medication for your heart. Let's look at that next. You have a blood test scheduled, and you're wondering, should I take my morning meds? You consider skipping your blood pressure pill or that small tablet that thins your blood. Stop right there. Unless your doctor has specifically instructed you to skip a dose, you must never assume it's safe to stop your medication, particularly for your heart or blood pressure. Missing even a single dose can trigger a rebound effect. Your blood pressure could shoot up unpredictably, or your blood could suddenly become more prone to clotting. For an older adult, this is a serious risk. Take, for example, a 2021 study from the Cleveland Clinic. They found that patients over 60 who paused their antihypertensive medications without medical advice had a 42% higher chance of experiencing dangerous spikes in their systolic blood pressure during routine tests. In some cases, this triggered an emergency room visit within hours. The same danger applies to blood thinners. Skipping a dose could elevate the risk of a stroke from a sudden clot, especially when your body is under the stress of fasting and dehydration. I understand the concern that medication might interfere with test results. But here's the truth. If a medication could affect your lab values, your doctor will give you precise instructions ahead of time. Guesswork is dangerous. So before your next test, make a simple call to your physician's office. Ask clearly, should I take my morning pills before the blood draw? It is a 5-minute conversation that could aunt your life. Next, let's discuss something many people think they're doing right, but which actually puts the brain at risk. Fasting for too long. Many people reason that if an 8-hour fast is good, then a 14-hour fast must be better. They stop eating after lunch the day before, skip dinner and breakfast, and arrive at the lab running on empty. The problem is, when you fast for longer than 12 hours, especially without proper hydration, your blood sugar can drop dangerously low. This isn't just about feeling weak or hungry. Low blood sugar directly affects your brain function, your balance, and your blood pressure. It can make you feel faint before you even sit down for the test. Older adults are especially vulnerable to this. A 2020 study from Johns Hopkins followed patients over 65 who fasted for more than 13 hours. Nearly 1 in 5 experienced symptoms like dizziness, blurred vision, or even a brief loss of consciousness, either before or immediately after their blood draw. These weren't people with major health problems. They were everyday seniors trying to do the right thing. So here is the smarter approach. Unless your doctor specifies otherwise, stick to a 10 to 12-hour fast. No longer. If your test is at 8 a.m., enjoy a light, healthy dinner around 7 or 8 p.m. the night before. That provides more than enough time for accurate results without pushing your body into the danger zone. And please, don't forget that glass of water. Coming up, we'll talk about a morning ritual that feels harmless, but could be sending your heart into overdrive before your test even begins. For decades, it has been a cherished part of our morning routine. It wakes us up, sharpens our focus, and frankly feels like a hug in a mug. I'm talking about coffee. But here's the catch. That caffeine isn't just waking up your brain, it's also waking up your heart, and sometimes pushing it too hard. When you drink coffee just before a blood draw, the caffeine can cause your heart rate to accelerate and your blood pressure to spike. This is particularly true for people over 60. That surge can create false readings on your test, potentially misleading your doctor, or worse, placing undue stress on blood vessels that are already vulnerable with age. A 2021 clinical review in hypertension research found that seniors who consumed coffee within 2 hours of a blood test had, on average, a 12-point higher systolic reading. That's enough to mask an underlying blood pressure issue. But it's not just about the numbers. That rush of caffeine can leave you feeling jittery, lightheaded, or anxious just before the draw. And if you've been fasting, that coffee hits your system even harder. On an empty stomach, it can trigger a sudden blood sugar crash or a rapid, fluttering heartbeat. Now, what about exercise? You might be surprised to learn what a gentle morning workout can do to your body before a blood test. You're committed to staying healthy, and perhaps you like to start your day with a bit of movement. That's wonderful. But on the morning of a blood test, that workout might be doing more harm than good. You see, any form of exercise, especially something intense like brisk walking, resistance training, or even heavy gardening, temporarily raises your heart rate and blood pressure. That's perfectly normal. But when you're over 60 and your cardiovascular system is already working a little harder to maintain equilibrium, this temporary spike can lead to misleading lab results or even push your heart too far, too fast. A 2020 study from the American Geriatrics Society followed older adults who exercised within 2 hours of routine blood tests. The results showed significant fluctuations in their blood pressure, heart rate, and stress hormone levels, enough to distort the interpretation of key biomarkers. Even more concerning, a few participants reported dizziness and chest discomfort during their tests, not from the needle, but because their bodies hadn't fully recovered from the physical exertion. If your blood vessels are already a bit stiff, and your hydration is low from fasting, exercise can temporarily reduce blood flow to the brain. It's a recipe for lightheadedness, or, in a worst-case scenario, a TIA. So, what should you do? On the morning of your test, keep it gentle. Skip the treadmill, the weights, and the power walk. Instead, stick to some light stretching or deep breathing exercises. Save your full workout for after your blood draw is complete. And speaking of circulation, let's turn to something most of us never think twice about. What you're wearing. Yes, your clothing. What you wear to your blood test matters more than you might imagine. It's a common habit. We pull on a shirt with tight sleeves, snug compression gear, or a belt that fits just a little too well, wanting to look presentable for a medical appointment. But tight clothing, especially around your arms or waist, can quietly interfere with your circulation. For someone over 60, this can create real problems. When blood flow is restricted, even slightly, it can make it much harder for the nurse to find a good vein. This can mean a longer time with the needle, more pokes, and more discomfort. But even after the blood is drawn, that restricted circulation can lead to unexpected dizziness, numbness, or even fainting. A study in clinical nursing research found that older adults wearing tight sleeves or waistbands during lab visits were more likely to experience delayed onset dizziness after the draw, especially when combined with fasting or mild dehydration. So here's your simple solution. Wear something loose and comfortable. Choose a short-sleeved shirt or one with sleeves that can be rolled up easily. Keep your belt and waistband relaxed. You'll feel better, recover faster, and reduce your risk of complications. Next, let's look at something you might not even be aware of, but which has a profound impact on your brain and heart. How well you slept the night before. Sleep. It seems so simple, but missing even a few hours of rest the night before your blood test can silently increase your stroke risk. When you don't sleep well, whether from stress, discomfort, or just a restless night, your body pays the price the next morning. For older adults, these effects are amplified. A poor night's sleep doesn't just leave you feeling tired, it disrupts the delicate systems that regulate your heart and blood vessels. Studies show that a lack of sleep causes your sympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for your fight or flight response, to go on high alert. This raises your blood pressure, constricts your blood vessels, and increases your heart rate. A 2021 study from the Journal of Sleep Research found that adults over 60 who slept for less than 5 hours had a significantly higher chance of experiencing vascular spasms during and after their blood draws. Essentially, even if you don't feel tired, your body is already in a state of stress before you even walk into the clinic. When you combine that with fasting, anxiety, and mild dehydration, your risk of lightheadedness, an irregular heartbeat, or a TIA rises sharply. So, what can you do? The night before your test, prioritize rest. Wind down early. Turn off all screens an hour before bed. Keep your bedroom cool, quiet, and dark. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of restorative sleep. Your brain, your heart, and your blood vessels depend on it. And when the test is finally over, don't rush off just yet, especially not behind the wheel of a car. Let's talk about why. You've finished your blood test, you've rolled down your sleeve, and you're ready to head home. But if you haven't eaten yet, and you plan to drive, please wait just a moment. Driving yourself immediately after a fasting blood draw might seem harmless, but it's one of the riskiest things you can do, especially if you're over 60. Here's why. After 10 to 12 hours without food, your blood sugar is low. Add to that the stress of the blood draw, potential dehydration, and maybe even a poor night's sleep, and your body is in a fragile state. Now, imagine yourself behind the wheel. A sudden drop in blood sugar can lead to dizziness, blurred vision, delayed reaction times, or even fainting. That's not just dangerous for you. It's a danger to everyone else on the road. A case study published by the American Journal of Emergency Medicine documented several instances of older adults experiencing fainting spells or confusion within 30 minutes of leaving a clinic. Most of them were driving alone. The common factors? Fasting and skipping any post-test recovery. So, what is the safer plan? Bring a small snack with you, something with a bit of protein and healthy carbohydrates, and eat it right after your test. If you feel even slightly off, rest at the clinic for 10 or 15 minutes. And whenever possible, ask a friend or family member to drive you. One last thing. If you feel unwell, even hours after the test, do not ignore it. Let's talk about that next. So, you've made it through the test, you've had your snack, and you're back at home. But suddenly you feel a little dizzy, maybe a bit nauseous or just off. It's easy to think, it's probably nothing. I'll just rest. But those subtle symptoms could be your body's way of waving a red flag. For adults over 60, even mild dehydration or a sharp drop in blood sugar can set off a chain reaction in the nervous system. And sometimes that can lead to a mini stroke, what doctors call a TIA. It's a brief disruption of blood flow to the brain that may last only a few minutes. but ignoring it can be a serious mistake. In fact, a 2022 study in the journal Stroke found that nearly 15% of older adults who reported dizziness or nausea after fasting blood tests were later diagnosed with signs of minor brain ischemia, tiny strokes that often go unnoticed. These symptoms don't always come with pain, slurred speech, or facial drooping. It might just be a vague feeling of discomfort or unsteadiness. That's why they are so easy to brush off and so easy to miss. So here is the rule to live by. If you feel dizzy, lightheaded, nauseous, or unusually weak after a test, do not just wait it out. Sit down, drink some water, and let someone know how you are feeling. If the sensation doesn't pass quickly, or if it worsens, call your doctor. Let's wrap this up with a few key thoughts to carry with you. A blood test may seem like a small event, but after 60, even simple routines can affect your heart, your brain, and your safety in ways you might not expect. The good news is, you are in control. By drinking just enough water, never skipping your medications without guidance, sleeping well, eating lightly the night before, and most importantly, listening to your body, you can navigate this simple procedure safely. These aren't major changes, but they offer you major protection. If this video gave you even one helpful piece of advice, please type a 1 in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Health 360, because every small step you take brings you closer to stronger, healthier days ahead.